Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Mr. Fincham's Fireside Follow-Alongs. Today we're going to be continuing on in our science book. We're going to be lesson 5, and that is from unit 4. How do stars seem to move during the night in the year? So, before we begin, I want to remind you guys that this is in the Teach TCI part of your MyBethel login. So feel free to use that or your science book to follow along. So we are going to start with the first paragraph. On a clear night, you can look up at the sky and see thousands of stars. You might even see star patterns or constellations that form shapes and pictures. Many cultures have stories to explain constellations. You will learn about constellations and how they seem to move during the night and year. Scientists use constellations to help map the sky and communicate their observations. So here is a check your understanding thing that you guys can do here. And click these little find out buttons. Now, of course, these are not going to be in your book, but now we're going to go to page 317. As always, I'm going to click that main idea button. It seems to help me kind of get those important details that I need out of the reading as I go. So, number 1. Star patterns form pictures in the sky. When you look at the night sky, you can probably see some familiar star patterns. Perhaps you see the Big Dipper or the Little Dipper. If you connect the star patterns, you might see pictures or familiar objects. These patterns mark the constellations in the night sky. A constellation is a section of the sky that has a recognizable star pattern. People have been seeing pictures in the stars for thousands of years. For example, one constellation is called Orion, named after a hunter from ancient Greek mythology. Some people see a person hunting with a bow or holding a shield when they look at this constellation. Another constellation called Scorpius has a star pattern that looks like a scorpion. Scorpius is also from ancient Greek mythology. So before we go to the next paragraph, let's look at the picture here. I'm going to read the caption here. A constellation is a section of sky that has a recognizable star pattern. The constellation Orion is made up of very bright stars, which makes it one of the most easily seen constellations. So, there you are. There you have it. We're going to check out some more here in a minute, but let's go to this paragraph first. The brightest stars in the sky are usually part of the most recognizable star patterns. The star Betelgeuse and other bright stars form Orion. Some star patterns with bright stars make up only part of a larger picture. For example, one of the most well-known constellations is the Big Dipper, which is also part of a larger constellation, Ursa Major, or the Big Bear. The stars of the Big Dipper are 7 of the brightest stars in Ursa Major. The stars of Ursa Major form a picture of a bear. The handle of the Big Dipper is the bear's tail, and the bowl is part of its body. Other stars in Ursa Major form the rest of the bear's body, legs, and head. But many people cannot see the rest of Ursa Major because those stars are not as bright, so their pattern is not as noticeable. Here's another picture of a constellation here. So here's the Big Dipper. Imagine, now you can kind of see it, but for those who don't, I'll kind of explain these 3 stars here, and maybe this one as well, kind of form the handle of what looks like a spoon, right? And then you go 1, 2, 3, 4. This section right here would be the part that you would dip into a bucket to fill it with water or what have you. And there you have the Big Dipper. And down below, you're going to write the name of a constellation that you've researched once you do some research from a book or on the internet. And there's 3 of them. So Scorpius, Orion, Cassiopeia, excuse me. And then you're going to draw those constellations underneath. Explain why the pattern of stars you choose is called by its constellation name. And then you're going to list your sources. So just list where you got those details from. Now we're going to go to the next section, page 318. Again, I'm going to click that main idea button. Okay. Stars seem to move during the night. Suppose you are outside one evening and find Orion shining just above a tree near your home. A few hours later, you go outside again and look for Orion in the same spot, but it is not there. You search the sky again and finally find it lower in the sky. What happened? Why did Orion move? Next paragraph. If you observe the stars several times during a night, they will seem to move in an arc, or a semicircle. If you could see the stars for the entire day, they would appear to move in a full circle. If you face north, the stars move in a counterclockwise direction. If you face south, the stars move in a clockwise direction. But they are not actually moving. Rather, the stars only look like they are moving because the Earth is rotating. This is the same concept as when you're riding in a car. If you're riding in your car and you're looking out the window, it appears that the things next to you are moving, right? But they are not. You are the one moving in your car, right? And they give an example right here. Think about riding a moving bus. If you look at the seats on the bus, they do not seem to be moving. They do not seem to be moving either. And you do not seem to be moving either. Everything on the bus seems still because these things are moving with you. Similarly, if you look around you while standing on Earth, everything on Earth, including you, seems to stay still. If you look out the window of a moving bus, buildings and trees appear to move past it. You know that the buildings and trees are not moving. They only seem to move because you are moving in relation to everything outside the bus. Like on the bus, if you look outside of Earth at the sky, you see that stars and other objects in space seem to be moving. But stars do not move in relation to Earth. Rather, you are moving in a circle as Earth rotates, which makes objects that are not on Earth appear to move. And so here is a short 15-second video. It says that you should watch it a few times and then answer the questions that go. There's 4 of them here. And then here is a paragraph for you to write that explains how stars appear to move throughout the night. Make sure you use the terms here listed above. We're going to go to the next page. Sorry guys, it's taking a second. There we go. So page 319. Again, I'm going to click that main idea star. Okay, number 3. Using stars and star patterns to navigate. Oh no, you're lost. What are you going to do? The first thing you should do is find out which direction is which. In the morning and evening, you can use the sun to determine the directions since it rises in the east and sets in the west. But what can you do when you are lost at night? Like people have been doing for thousands of years, you can use stars to find your way around. You just learned that the stars seem to move in the sky, so how can you use them to find a direction? Not all stars appear to move, so you can just use those stars to help you determine which direction is which. One star is easy to see and always seems to stay in place. That star is Polaris, or the North Star, and can be seen from the northern hemisphere. There is another star that does not move in the sky, but it is much more difficult to see. That star is Polaris Australis, which can be seen from the southern hemisphere. Since it is not a very bright star, using it to navigate is not as easy as using Polaris. So here is the Big Dipper, Polaris, the Little Dipper. See how it looks like little spoons? Finding Polaris is easy if you are in the northern hemisphere. First, look at the night sky and find the Big Dipper, and then locate the last 2 stars that form the bowl of the Big Dipper. In your mind, draw a line connecting these 2 stars. Continue your imaginary line away from the bowl, going up from the top of the bowl. The first bright star that your line meets is Polaris. When you find Polaris, you will know which direction is north. So, I want you to look at this image here and answer the questions beneath. Okay? There's 3 questions down here for you guys to check your understanding with. But we are going to go to the next section, section 4, and this is page 320, number 4. Constellations seem to change with the seasons. Orion is large and made of some of the biggest stars in the sky, so it is one of the easiest star patterns to find. On a winter night in the northern hemisphere, you could probably see its brightly glowing stars. But if you look for Orion in the summer, you will not be able to find it at all. In fact, many stars that you can see in the winter are not visible in the summer. And many stars that you can see in the summer are not visible in the winter. As you have learned, stars appear to move because Earth rotates. But another reason why they appear to move is because of Earth's orbit around the sun. If you observe a star pattern, such as Orion, at the same time of night for several weeks, you will see that its position in the sky changes. It may move higher or lower in the sky. Some stars, such as around Polaris, never disappear from the sky, but other stars, such as those that form Orion, will rise and set as the change. Here's a little diagram for you guys. Oops, don't want to do that yet. There we go. The stars you see at night depend on which direction the part of Earth you are on is facing. As Earth moves around the sun in its orbit, the night side of Earth looks out into a different part of space. The night side of Earth is the part of Earth that faces away from the sun. During the winter, the night side of Earth faces the part of the sun that contains Orion. In the summer, the day side of Earth faces Orion. So, Orion is in the sky during winter nights and summer days. You cannot see Orion when it is in the day sky because the sun is so bright that other stars are not visible. Here is a word bank for you guys to check your vocab understanding here. And here is another little activity for you guys. Notice Scorpius here. We're going to go on to the next section as well. Page 322. Then I'm going to click that main idea star. People use constellations to tell stories. Have you ever looked at the clouds and seen shapes of objects? Perhaps you saw a cloud that looked like a cat. Maybe your friend looked at the same cloud and saw a duck. People like to find familiar objects and things that do not have regular shapes. So, it is not surprising that people all over the world find pictures in the star patterns. But just as you and your friend saw different shapes in a cloud, different people see different pictures in the same patterns of stars. You and your classmates probably call the 7 bright stars in Ursa Major the Big Dipper, but people in England call it plow, spelled P-L-O-W in the U.S. A plow is a tool used in farming. Slaves from the American South called the same pattern of stars the drinking gourd. Some cultures see a wagon or a coffin. So the stars in a constellation do not actually form a picture in the sky. People just see pictures in the stars. You guys will remember the drinking gourd from Road to Freedom. The Greek myth of Ursa Major. Many cultures have myths about the pictures that they see in the sky. Many myths revolve around Ursa Major. One Greek myth explains how Ursa Major was formed. The myth says that Zeus, the king of the gods, fell in love with a woman named Callisto. Zeus's wife became jealous and turned Callisto into a bear. Callisto's son, who is a hunter, saw Callisto in bear form and tried to kill her. To stop the killing, Zeus turned her son into a bear and put both the mother and the son in the sky. They became Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, the big bear and the little bear. The Blackfoot myth of Ursa Major. So now we're getting into instead of the Greek, now it's the Native American one. The Blackfoot Nation is a group of American Indian tribes that originally lived in parts of what is now the United States and Canada. Like the Greek myth of Ursa Major, the Blackfoot myth involves people becoming stars. According to the myth, a young woman fell in love with a bear. When her father learned of this, he became angry and told his sons to kill the bear. When the bear died, the woman was turned into a bear by magic. As a bear, the woman became angry and chased after her little sister and 7 brothers. When she chased them, her youngest brother shot an arrow into the sky so that he and his siblings could escape. The brothers and sisters followed the arrow and became the stars of the Big Dipper. Other American Indian myths about Ursa Major are also about bears. But what happens in each story is different. In some stories, the stars and the handle of the Big Dipper are hunters chasing the bear. Now we're doing the Arab one. The Arab myth of Ursa Major. Ursa Major does not represent a bear in Arab culture. Instead, the bowl of the Big Dipper is a coffin. The stars in the handle are grieving people following the coffin. According to the Arab myth, the person in the coffin is a man named Al-Naish. 2 of the stars in the handle represent his son and daughter. Al-Naish was killed by a person named Al-Jadi, who is represented in the sky by the North Star. Here you're going to write your own story or myth about the constellation. You guys can get creative with that one. Now we're going to go on to page 323. Scientists use star charts to map the sky. So here is a star chart that they use. Most people use the word constellation to describe parts of the sky with recognizable star patterns. But to the ancient Greeks, constellations were more than just pictures formed by star patterns. They were also areas in the sky around these star patterns. Today, astronomers, or scientists who study objects in energy and space, still think of constellations as areas in the sky. When you look at a map of the U.S., you see that the land is divided up into different states. The map shows where the borders are between states. These borders can help you describe places in the United States. For example, suppose you wanted to explain where the Great Salt Lake is. You would find it on a map and say that it is in Utah. Astronomers use constellation borders in a similar way that we use state borders on a map. Like the ancient Greeks, astronomers today divide the sky into areas called constellations. The constellations have borders. The entire sky is divided into constellations just like how all of the United States is divided into states. When astronomers describe where stars or other objects in space are, they use star charts. For example, M81 is a group of stars that is visible from Earth. M81 is not part of a star pattern Ursa Major. But astronomers describe it as being in the constellation Ursa Major because it is located in the part of the sky. Astronomers describe it as in this place because they divide the sky into constellations. So, a constellation and the sky around it are grouped together. Different cultures see different star patterns. They have also come up with different systems for mapping star patterns, but astronomers around the world have agreed on the borders and names of the constellations. So here's a picture of some astronomers. They have agreed on the names of constellations, and this makes communicating with them easier. I mean, it would be hard to communicate about something if they all had different names, right? This agreement helps astronomers communicate information. An astronomer can name an area in the sky, and others will understand what he or she is talking about. In casual conversations, astronomers have different names for constellations. Astronomers in England talk about the plough, but astronomers from both countries use the same name when describing something they are studying in the night sky. They all use the name Ursa Major. This common name lets astronomers easily understand each other. It lets them know that they are talking about an area in the sky, not about a star pattern. Star patterns will help astronomers find the various constellations. Think about a map of the United States that does not show the state's borders. It's not easy to find where the states are on this map, but you can use landforms or bodies of water to locate states. For example, the eastern border of Iowa has a nose, or a place where the land sticks out and looks like a nose. This nose is formed by a bend in the Mississippi River. If you find this bend on a map in the United States, you can find the eastern border of Iowa. Astronomers can use star patterns in the same way. They can find Ursa Major by finding the Big Dipper or other constellations in the stars. So here's another diagram for you guys to check your understanding. There's 3 questions there. And here is complete the speech bubble. So pretend like this guy is talking, and you're going to use the terms constellation, locate, and pattern. And this is going to be our last page for today, the summary. And no main ideas in the summary page. How do stars seem to move during the day and night? And year? Star patterns form pictures in the sky. Sections of the sky have star patterns that create recognizable pictures. These sections of the sky are called constellations. People have been seeing these patterns in the sky for thousands of years. Number 2. Stars seem to move during the night. When you look at the stars from Earth, they appear to be moving in an arc. If you could see the stars for an entire day, they would appear to move in a full circle. But the stars are not actually moving. They only appear to be moving because the Earth rotates. Number 3. Using stars and star patterns to navigate. Not all stars appear to move in the sky. Polaris, or the North Star, can be seen from the northern hemisphere, and it does not appear to move in the sky. So you can use the North Star to determine which direction is north. Number 4. Constellations seem to change with the seasons. Star patterns change positions in the sky over time, so many constellations can only be seen during certain seasons. They appear to move because of Earth's orbit around the sun over the course of a year. And number 5. People use constellations to tell stories. Many people see pictures and star patterns because people like to see familiar objects and things that do not have a regular shape. Different people and cultures see different objects in the same constellation. Number 6. Scientists use star charts to map the sky. Astronomers use maps that divide the sky into areas called constellations. They use constellations to describe where objects are in the sky. Astronomers around the world have agreed on the names of these constellations so that they can communicate their findings. And here is one more check your understanding thing from the word bank. So that is going to be it for us today. But before we move on, I want to read your activity that goes along with today's readings under the ELA questions and tasks section. It's the same one that we've been using for science the whole time. So here it is. After reading the assigned text for the day, you will create a graphic to show what you learned. You can use Seesaw, Keynote, Pages, or other graphic apps and software, or a blank sheet of paper for this assignment. You will create an image that represents what you learned today in your science reading. Items you have to include in your graphic are, number 1, a title that represents an overarching main idea of what you learned. Number 2, include 4 key facts or quotes from the text in your image. Some students like to make these the border of their drawing. And number 3, include an image either drawn or a graphic you obtained somewhere else. So you're allowed to use or include any additional items that you would like. The point of this activity is for you guys to use your creative side. So, don't be afraid to get creative with it. I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. That's it for today. I try to usually keep these to 20 minutes or under. We went a little bit over today, but that's all right. Thank you guys for following along. As always, write me on Seesaw. You can shoot me an email, comments, or questions you guys can put in the comment section below. Thank you for following along. I appreciate you guys a lot. Bye-bye.